3D glass with realistic refraction and dispersion is such a satisfying effect in motion graphics. The problem is that After Effects is not exactly built for this. But in this video, I will show you how to break through that barrier and create realistic 3D glass all within After Effects. No plugins, no shortcuts, just a little bit of creativity. If we take a look at our video right over here, we can see that we have these glass-shaped objects in here. And if we have a look at the material, we can see that we have the text that is actually being deformed behind the glass material right over here. But also if we take a closer look at the actual material, and even if I solo it right over here, we can see that inside of the glass, there's also nice refractions that are happening when the light is bouncing on this glass. This is normally not that possible in After Effects, since After Effects, when it comes to transparency, it is actually good at rendering reflections on the surface, but when it comes to the inside of the material, right now it actually doesn't really add any detail inside of the inside. So let's see how we can achieve this look in After Effects. So right now I am in a simple composition in here, just a full HD composition, and I named it to 3D object main. So I am going to start by adding a shape. So I would like to create an ellipse, but in this case I'm going to use the rectangle tool instead and create an ellipse from this. This way I will have a bit more control on the look of this ellipse. So I aligned it to the center like that, and now I can enter inside the rectangle, go to rectangle path, and from here I can adjust the roundness. So if I increase that to around 300, you can see that it's fully round in this case, and it is actually now a circle. And the great thing about this is that if I reduce this later on, I can adjust that glass shape to a rectangle, for instance. So it's always good to have that flexibility. So now the next thing would be actually to turn this layer to a 3D layer. And once I do that, I need to check that we are in advanced 3D in here. So not classic 3D, make sure to select advanced 3D. And then we can open this and go to the geometry options right over here and start increasing the extrusion. I would like to extrude this around 150, and nothing really happens in here. That's because the object is not rotated, so we're seeing it from the front. To rotate it, simply pick an axis and rotate like that. But an issue that I am seeing in here, as you can see, the rotation right now, it is happening from the surface. I would actually like to be rotating this from the center of the object so that it's more natural. To do that, I can simply go to the transform of the object right over here, go to anchor point, and since I have extruded this 150, I need to divide it by 2, 75 in here, and now that anchor point is in the center. So the next thing would be to actually start shading this. The first thing is to actually reduce its transparency. So let's go to T on your keyboard, and that opens the opacity, and I'm going to give it a 70%. In this case, the object is white, that's good. And now it's a good time actually to rename this to 3D shape. And now if I go to the geometry options right over here, once again, I can go to the bevel style and make that convex. Then also we can use a bevel depth, and I'm going to use a bevel depth of 10. Now let's go to material options and let's scroll down. And we're going to go to diffuse and turn that to 100%. Go to specular intensity, used around 27%, and specular shininess around 65%. Perfect. So right now we have the base of the look that is already ready. Now we are going to work on the reflections on the outside of the shape. So to do that, we're going to add some lights. Go to layer, new, and light. I want to have a point light. Let's create a point light with around a radius of 500 and full of distance of 2000. Let's press OK. So I'm going to reposition this in the x-axis, and I'm going to put it a little bit back in here. And let's go inside of the light in here, go to light options, and we can reduce a little bit its intensity, somewhere around 30 maybe. And I would like also to use the inverse square clamped option here. And basically what I am doing, I'm creating these ridges on this shape in here to create nice reflections on the shape basically. So let's duplicate this, Command D on your keyboard, and now I can shade somewhere else. So just place this wherever it feels good, somewhere like that. Let's duplicate that and place it right up, and duplicate and place another one on the other side. This looks nice. And let's duplicate it one more time. And I'm going to place one at the top in here. Let's zoom out and place one right over here. Perfect. And you can play with the z-axis and see which part gives you what you want, basically. And now I would like to eliminate this edge right over here. So I'm going to duplicate this one, Command D on your keyboard, go to the z-axis in here, pull it towards me. So I'm now just going to rotate this shape slightly to see how it looks in different places. So in this case, I am seeing that this light is too near, so I can position it more towards this corner right over here. And even this one is a bit too near. And let's duplicate this one and create another one right over here. Brilliant, and this looks quite good already. Now what I need to do is to actually animate this shape so that later on it will catch light in different angles and so on. So to animate it, I'm going to introduce a very simple rotation animation. So hit R on your keyboard and you can simply pick all of these, toggle the stopwatch, move forward to around 8 seconds in here, and let's just rotate it kind of random in here and then see how that looks. To check the animation quickly in here, what we can do is actually to turn this to draft 3D and it will render much faster. Perfect, that looks quite good. All the outside reflections are done and now we can jump to the actual refraction. But before that, I would like to ask you if you can like, subscribe and even comment below. This will really help me to reach more people and do more content like this. So let's now create the refractions. Now I'm going to copy all the lights, not the shape, just the lights. And I'm going to pick this 3D object main in here, and I'm going to drop that into a new composition like that. Perfect. And now I'm going to paste Command V on your keyboard, those lights. Now what I need to do, go over this layer, the 3D object main, the one that I have dragged and dropped inside of this composition. And now I'm going to simply pick that layer and click the continuous rasterize button. And what this does, it will actually use the lights that are actually in this scene rather than in this scene. Let's say I remove all the lights from the main composition here. It's completely flat. Now if I go right over here, even though this is just a layer in here, I can see the lights being used from this scene. That is because I have pressed the continuous rasterize button, so it is treating this layer as actually the actual composition in here. So let's continue in here. Now I'm going to rename this to red, so 3D object red, and I'm going to duplicate that. So Command D, and this one will be blue, Command D on your keyboard once again, and this one would be green. Perfect, so I have that set up. Now let's go to the green, and I'm going to pick all of these lights, and then simply going to move them a little bit to the right. So let's go to the blue now. I'm going to pick all of these lights right over here, and I'm going to move them even more, just like that. So that is done. Now let's start creating those refractions using this data that we have just made. Now I actually wanted to pause for a quick moment in here to show you this great tool for After Effects. These are actually our sponsor today, and they actually have provided loads of free content in here. This is actually the AEJuice pack manager, and if we hover over the free section here, we have loads and loads of free packs in here. So for instance, one that I really like is the sound effects. It's completely free. You can just click on that pack and start exploring all the different sound effects that you have in there. And of course, they also have loads of other products. So a good place to start is the free section, but they also have other products that you can buy. So for instance, they have things like visual effects, which are extremely high quality, as you can see. And they have things like lens flares or flash effects. Basically, if you can dream it, most probably there's a good chance that you will find it in here. So there's loads and loads of packs. A good thing would be to actually type for it. So if we want titles, we can type titles. And here we go, we have loads of title packs in here that you can just load into After Effects. So very quickly, I have one opened in here, which is the modern titles. And I would like to import a design of this into the project that I'm working in here. So let's just double click on one of the scenes in here. Right away, it will be imported inside your project. If I just place this text under my glass object in here, like that, you can see that text being refracted by our glass. And of course, I will actually show you at the end of this video how you can actually create this nice glass refraction with the text. So feel free to check this out. It's quite great. And they actually have an option to buy all the packs at once with a single fee. I think it's quite worth it for the amount of value that you are getting in here. And I'm going to leave all the links for this in the description below. Now let's start creating those refractions using this data that we have just made. I need to pick the blue, green, and red, and I'm going to put them inside a new composition. Press OK. And now I'm going to go to the effects and presets, and I'm going to bring in an effect named Channel Mixer. So let's put that on the red. And what I need to do is actually, in this case, remove the green in here and only leave the red. So if I do that, and I solo this layer, and I'm going to do the same thing for the others, but use, in this case, the green. So I'm going to leave only the green in this case. So let's make the red and blue 0. And for the blue, put the channel mixer right over here, and 0, 0, and the blue. Now I can simply pick all of these, and for the transfer mode, use screen. Great, so already you can see some refraction happening in there with the lights. This looks quite good. But now we are going to even add more refraction inside of the shape. Let's see how we can do that. First, I'm going to pick the first layer in here and duplicate that. And I'm going to rename that to RGB. And I'm going to remove the channel mixer from that. And I'm going to hide that. So that's the first step. Now I'm going to bring in a new effect, and let's bring in a displacement map and place that over the blue. And I'm going to make the vertical displacement to 0 and the max horizontal displacement to 10. And like that, if I increase that, we can see we are already creating some distortion inside of the glass in here. So let's use just a value of 10 in here. And now let's pick all of these layers and give them a color, just so they are easy to find. And I'm going to duplicate them, Command D on your keyboard, place them below right over here and give them a different color. It could be any color. And now I'm going to go over the green. I'm going to place that on top, and I'm going to copy the displacement map from the blue in here, copy, and paste it right over here on the green. And I'm going to give it a displacement of just 5 in this case. Go to the blue, give that the displacement of around 15, and go to the red. I need to paste the displacement layer in here as well, but give that a displacement of around 30. So like this, we have the base that is ready, but if I look at the shape, there is some more work to do to actually sell this effect. So one thing is that if I look at the actual video in here and see the shapes in here, I can see that glass actually have a different refraction of light at the edges than it has on the inside. So some light actually falls on the outside and doesn't kind of make it through to the center. So let's see how we can recreate that in our instance. So I'm going to go over my composition. I need to rename this actually. So let's rename that to Final. 3D object final, and we are now going to add some effects to this layer right over here. So let's show that and solo that. So now I don't have that original shape, and I'm going to add a glow effect. Let's add a glow and paste that right over there. Perfect. And in this case, I would like it to, instead of glowing the actual color channels in here, I would like that to glow the alpha channel. So let's glow the alpha channel, and I would like to use a glow threshold of 0 and a glow radius of around 75. With this glow, I will select which parts I would like kind of to hide from that refraction of this object. And now I'm going to introduce a new effect called Set Matte, and just drag and drop that right over here. And that would cut the edges that were glowing outside of the shape. Let's add another effect called Tint, and just drag and drop that right over here. And what tint does, it actually can map black to something else. So I would like to map black to white, and map white, I'm going to map that to black. This way, I have switched the direction of that glow. And in this case, we can, if we want, increase that or decrease that, and immediately you are seeing this, that even this layer without the refraction, it is looking more like glass, because now we can see more of the volume of this shape. Perfect. So let's continue. Let's bring in a curves effect and drag and drop that right over there. Perfect. And with this, we can simply do an S-curve in here to increase the contrast. Unsolo this layer, and I'm going to pick all of these, and I'm going to track matte with this layer right over here. I need to switch this to light, from alpha matte to light, And now I can see that I have the object that has the refractions in the middle in here, but not on the edges. Having said that, I would still like to leave some refractions on the edges. So I'm just in here, I have two groups of these. I'm just going to take one group of these, so Command D on your keyboard, and place it on top, give it a different color, and this would be on the opposite, on the edges. And to invert that, what we need to press is this button here to invert the matte. Now this looks good, but what I need to do is to actually reduce the opacity of all of these. So let's pick them all up, hit T on your keyboard, and make that 50%. Perfect. And now if I go to this 3D object in here and go to the glow right over here, I can actually play with this to get the look as I need. As you can see, it is very subtle, but this is really what it takes to sell this effect. Now, what I have left is actually to create a rim light on the edges of this shape. And to do that, I'm going to add an adjustment layer. So layer, new adjustment layer. And over this adjustment layer, I'm going to introduce a CC light sweep. Just drag and drop that right over there. And you can see what this does. It creates a light sweep over this shape. And I can increase the width of this to somewhere around that. I'm going to reduce the sweep intensity to 0, like that. And I'm going to increase the edge thickness to the full amount. So like that, I can see that light that is kind of getting through in the shape in here. You can even give this some color. So I can go to the light color in here and I can reshade that. Press OK. Now I'm going to duplicate that. And for this one, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to light up just the tiny edge. So I'm going to give it an edge thickness of 1. And I'm going to give it a large edge intensity. And also what I need to do is I'm going to go to sweep intensity and increase that just very slightly, so something like a 10. Now let's do the same thing, but for the opposite side. So I'm simply going to pick both of these layers, Command D to duplicate them, and make sure they are at the bottom right over here. And I'm simply going to switch the direction of these to somewhere around here. And in this case, I can even remove some of the intensity of the edge in here. So that would be this one. And I'm also going to actually increase the size of the intensity of this edge right over here. So edge thickness, I'm going to make it 2. Great. So this looks quite good. Now what this does is actually that creates kind of these ridges inside of this object. We will see how we can fix those as well. So first I'm going to add another curves effect. So let's bring in a curves effect and place it right over the adjustment layer in the end in here. Make sure it's exactly in the end. Perfect. And I'm going to increase some contrast in here. And like this, you can see even the edges more pronounced in here. And to refine the edge, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to an effect here called Matte Choker. And I'm going to place that at the end right over there. And the default settings are quite good. And now I can see that the edge is totally clean. I still have those ridges inside of the shape. And to fix that, it's actually super simple. Let's go to project in here, and I'm going to change the project from 8 bits to 16 bits per channel. Press OK. And this will take a bit more time to render, but the result is so much better. Great. So this looks quite good. We still need to do the text reflected under the glass. But if we have a closer look at this, we can see that we have these very realistic refractions in here. And since this is based on light, we can see that the refraction changes as the object rotates. Also, a great thing about this is that we can actually see the refraction happening at different depths of the layer in here. So if we take a look at the edges in here, we can see that nice refraction happening, and there is actually depth in the object in there. Now let's take a look at how we can reflect the text under it. But before that, I would like to mention that I am going to make this whole setup available for you, so you can purchase that if you would like. I'm also going to make it available on Patreon. Yes, I have finally created a Patreon account where I will be sharing content like this on it, and even more things like presets and so on. And also it's a very good place for you to communicate with me and also to share ideas and speak with other creatives. So feel free to subscribe right over there. Now let's continue with explaining how this actually works. I have added actually some more features into this. In this case, for instance, I have a composition named 3D Object Final Control here. And over this layer, over controls, we have some simple controls that will make your life much easier. So you have the rim light control, which you can easily give it some different color. For instance, we can make that green, for instance, very easily. And you can even change the direction of that. So that comes with this tool. And then you have the second one, which is the rim light color tool, which you can give it any color once again. And let's make that, for instance, yellow. And as you can see, like this, we can change the look of this glass completely in just a few seconds. Perfect. And then I have also added a very nice feature here called displacement amount, which we can, if we make it 0, we can see that now there is no displacement. But if we increase that, for instance, to 200, the displacement is even more accentuated. So this is quite a great feature if you'd like to get this and even make your process a bit faster. And also the great thing about this is that I actually can go to the 3D object, place 3D object here, and I can simply place any 3D object. So in here, I have the original 3D object that I was working on, and I can simply enter into it and start modifying this. For instance, if I remove the fill and show the stroke right over here, we can see that now we have a ring. And if I go back to the 3D object final control, you can see that in here now we have this 3D glass ring instead of the previous ellipse. So feel free to experiment with this. You can, of course, even add different 3D objects in here. So you can even design your own shape layers and then extrude them, as I have shown you, to create your own 3D objects. So let's continue. I'm simply now going to pick the 3D object final. I'm going to place that into a new composition. Now I'm going to add my background right over here. And if you would actually like to know how to make these kind of backgrounds, please let me know in the comment section below. I can actually make a whole video just on grading backgrounds and lights and so on. So just let me know in the comment section below. So let's continue with the text. Just bring in the text and place that right under the glass right over there. And now I'm going to go to the 3D object final in here and change the transfer mode to screen, just so it shines through the text. But this is a bit too much, so I would like to duplicate this, change it back to normal, and go to opacity, T on your keyboard, so something like this works well. Now let's introduce an adjustment layer, layer, new adjustment layer, and from here we can bring in a displacement map, drag and drop that over that, and we can increase the value quite a lot. And as you can see, this is happening all over our background in here. So I simply need to go to this displacement map layer and change that to the third layer in here. And this way, it only happens on this shape. And of course, I need to reposition this under this 3D object. Let's rename that to displacement. And now if I have a look at this, I can see that text being distorted by this 3D shape. Perfect. One final thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add some blur to the text. Let's go to fast blur, fast box blur, drag and drop that over this adjustment layer. And in this case, I'm going to give it a value of around 5. And as you can see, the blur is happening all over my scene in here. So I would like to change the track matte to be of that 3D object right over here. And by default, that 3D object switches off, so I'm going to switch that back on. And that's basically it. You can see now the text being refracted right under the 3D glass object right over here. Now, if you would like to create the actual text animation, I have actually a whole video just on text animation, so just check the description below where you will find all the links to the things that I have mentioned.